as I said, there are 4 types, but to make it confusing, we start with type 0, the 0 conditional 1, 2, 3. So 4 in total. So far, we've only seen type 2, where we talk about imaginary or unreal situations. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and look at type 0. What are type 0 conditional sentences and what do they talk about? Type 0 talks about facts, certainties, and routines. For example, if I have a toothache, I go to the doctor. You can say that's a fact or what I always do in that situation. Okay, I don't have a toothache at the moment, so I don't need to go to the dentist, but if I have a toothache, I go. That's type 0. Facts, certainties, and routines. Let's have a look at type 1, talking about possible situations. So I'm going to use the same sentence. If I have a toothache next week, it's possible, I will go to the dentist. I'm talking about a real situation, a real possible situation in the future. If and I will. Okay, we've already looked at our type 2, imaginary situations or unreal. And type 3 is a bit of a special one, used to talk about a regret. So we're not going to go into that one today. Maybe the subject of a new webinar. You never know. Okay, so we've looked at some ways of agreeing or disagreeing. Let's deep dive now a little bit into those conditionals, because when you're negotiating or coming to an agreement, so agreeing and disagreeing, the conditional is a great way to do that. So let's start back at the beginning with type O that I just mentioned. We said we use it to talk about facts, certainties, and routines. So let's look at some examples. Are you ready? If the system crashes, we lose valuable data. If there are some ITers online today, they'll be getting shivers, cold shivers at this one. We don't want our system to crash. It's a fact, isn't it? If the system crashes, we lose valuable data. Definitely a fact. Let's have a look at the grammar hiding in there. We've got our if for the conditional. Because it's type 0, we just need the simple present in the first clause. And if we look at the second clause, we lose valuable data is also the simple present. So there's a grammatical structure of type 0. If in our first clause with the present simple, and in the second clause we also need the present simple. Remember to talk about a fact. Okay, let's have a look at another example. If I try to access the file, I get an error message. Okay, another fact. That is what happens when I do this. Okay, let's have a look at the grammar. If I try, of course, that's a simple present, isn't it? And the verb to get, I get an error message. So once again, if simple present in the first clause, present simple in the second clause. Okay, how are we going? Everybody following so far? Give me a thumbs up if you're still with me, or some indication in the chat box. Okay, and we'll go on to the next example. It should be clear, I think. Thank you for the thumbs up. Another example, if employees feel valued, they perform better. I've said this is a fact. Some people might disagree with me, but I'm pretty sure it's correct. If employees feel valued, they perform better. So the if clause with the simple present again, and they perform again the simple present. Okay? Good. So to recap, type 0, if clause, simple present, second clause, simple present. Okay? Just a moment here because I'd like to introduce another word that you can only use with the type 0, and that's when. Okay? So if I take our last example, when employees feel valued, they perform better. So in the type 0 conditional, you can use when instead of the if, but watch out, not in type 1, 2, and 3. Okay? There is a small nuance, a subtle difference between when and if. If I change my example, I can make it clearer for you. If I am late for a lesson, I send my students a message. So if I am late, simple present, I send, simple present. But we're listening not to the structure this time, but to the meaning. If I'm late, I send them a message, or when I am late, I send them a message. As I said, it's about this difference. It's not a big difference, but when I'm late sounds to me, a native speaker, like, oi, oi, she's late a lot. So if is less frequent than when is a little bit more frequent. Okay, so the two words can be used in that type 0, but when sounds like it happens a lot. So if my car breaks down, it's possible, I call the garage. When my car breaks down, I call the garage. Could sound like, oh, your car breaks down quite regularly. Okay? I've given you some examples, but now it's your turn. So get those typing fingers ready. And of course, we're going to focus on the type 0 conditional. So I'd like you to be creative, to make a sentence and to type it into the chat box so we can have some good examples using the type 0 conditional. Very simple, okay? If, present simple, so you don't have to worry about your tenses. And in the second phrase, also the present simple. But remember, it should be a logical sentence as well. So get creative, please. Get those typing fingers flying and put your sentence into the chat box.